When the Senate chamber filled with lawmakers, journalists, and executives, no one expected that this would become the stage for one of the most brutal clashes in tech history. All eyes turned to Mark Zuckerberg as he adjusted his papers, preparing to defend Meta against accusations of manipulation and control. But before he could even begin, Elon Musk leaned forward, his voice cutting through the room like a blade. "We are sitting here listening to excuses from a man whose company has built the largest factory of thought control the world has ever seen, and you still dare to call this freedom of speech?" The chamber erupted in gasps and whispers. Senators exchanged glances, journalists rushed to record every word, and Zuckerberg's faint smile looked more like a mask about to crack. Musk did not hesitate. His tone was sharp, relentless, designed to wound. "Your algorithms don't just recommend content, they shape public opinion. You act as a government without ever being elected. Tell us, who gave you that right?" For a moment, the silence was suffocating. Then the room exploded with noise. Senators demanding answers, cameras flashing, analysts already tweeting fragments of the confrontation. It was no longer a hearing. It was a duel between two men who embodied the future of technology. One standing for unfiltered chaos, the other for algorithmic order. And in that instant, America realized that this was not just testimony, it was war. The hearing had been announced weeks earlier, framed as a serious inquiry into the growing power of big tech. Senators wanted answers about privacy, censorship, and the invisible influence of algorithms on elections and public discourse. But when the cameras switched on, it quickly became clear that this was more than just policy. It was a showdown of personalities. On one side sat Mark Zuckerberg, the billionaire founder of Meta, armed with binders of notes, legal advisors, and the aura of someone who believed he could outlast any storm. He was prepared to defend his company's policies with technical jargon, rehearsed statements, and polished numbers designed to appease lawmakers. Across the table, Elon Musk leaned back in his chair, hands clasped, eyes fixed on Zuckerberg with the impatience of a man who had not come to negotiate but to destroy. Musk had nothing to lose, no PR team whispering in his ear, only his own voice sharpened by months of frustration at what he saw as Meta's stranglehold on the speech and influence. Around them, senators played their parts, some stern, others opportunistic, eager to score sound bites that would trend online within minutes. Reporters packed the back rows, already live tweeting reactions, their feeds exploding with hashtags like #TechWar and #Senate Showdown. The atmosphere was tense, electric. This was not a typical corporate grilling. It was an arena. And Musk and Zuckerberg were not just witnesses, they were gladiators, each representing a vision of the digital future. One vision promised open skies, rockets to Mars, and platforms where speech flowed freely, unfiltered. The other defended structure, regulation, and the controlled environments of curated feeds. And now, under the blinding lights of the Senate chamber, those visions were about to collide. The questioning began politely, with senators asking Zuckerberg about content moderation policies and user data protections. He responded with his trademark monotone, citing percentages, compliance reports, and corporate responsibility statements. But Musk could not stay silent. "Enough of the scripted answers, Mark," Musk snapped, his voice echoing across the chamber. "You censor what you don't like, and you amplify what benefits you. That is not moderation, that is manipulation." Zuckerberg adjusted his tie, trying to appear calm. "Elon, with all due respect, Meta operates under strict guidelines to protect users and prevent harm. Our responsibility is to ensure safety, not chaos." Musk leaned forward, his tone sharper. "Safety? When independent journalists vanish from your platforms because they question the narrative? When political movements are throttled because they don't align with your worldview? That isn't safety. It's tyranny hidden behind code." A murmur spread through the room. One senator raised a document citing leaked internal memos that showed Meta executives discussing adjusting algorithmic visibility for dissenting voices. Musk seized the moment. There it is, proof that this man's empire doesn't just host conversations. It edits reality itself. And every senator here knows it. Zuckerberg fired back, his voice rising. And what about you, Elon? You've turned X into a playground for conspiracy theories and extremists. Is that your definition of free speech? Chaos, lies, and propaganda unchecked? The chamber crackled with tension. Senators tried to regain control, but Musk didn't yield. He pointed at Zuckerberg like a prosecutor cornering a criminal. The difference, Mark, is that I trust people to decide for themselves. You don't. You think you know better than everyone else, and you've built an empire on that arrogance. But today, you answer to the American people. The crowd erupted, half cheering, half booing. Hashtags spiked in real time. The conflict was no longer about policy. It was about power. And neither man was backing down. The room had reached a fever pitch. Every word was live-streamed, every pause dissected in real time across millions of screens. Senators leaned in, trying to contain the chaos, but Musk refused to let the moment slip away. He rose slightly in his chair, his voice booming with finality. The future cannot belong to a corporation that is terrified of truth. The words landed like a thunderclap. The chamber fell silent for a second before erupting into gasps and scattered applause. Some senators uncharacteristically clapped their hands, unable to hide their approval. Others exchanged worried glances, realizing Musk had just shifted the entire narrative of the hearing. Zuckerberg blinked rapidly, struggling for a reply. His rehearsed talking points crumbled in the face of Musk's blunt declaration. He muttered about responsibility, about balancing freedom with safety. But his voice wavered. It sounded less like confidence and more like desperation. Musk pressed on, relentless. You don't get to redefine freedom for billions of people. You don't get to decide which voices matter and which vanish into silence. That is not leadership. It is dictatorship wrapped in technology. The camera zoomed in on Zuckerberg's face. His jaw tightened, but his words faltered. For the first time, the audience witnessed a man who seemed untouchable, stripped of his armor. Musk had cornered him, not with data or charts, but with a single, piercing conviction. Across the country, viewers watching live felt the weight of the moment. News outlets scrambled to break in with banners. Musk stuns Zuckerberg at Senate hearing. Clips circulated instantly on social media, racking up millions of views within minutes. Memes spread, commentators shouted, and talk show hosts already had their opening jokes written. But in that chamber, the power dynamic had shifted irreversibly. Musk wasn't just another witness. He had become the voice of rebellion against a digital empire. And Zuckerberg, the architect of that empire, sat visibly shaken, realizing the narrative had slipped beyond his control. As the hearing drew to a close, the senators shuffled their papers, still buzzing from the unexpected storm that had just unfolded. But Musk wasn't finished. He stood, towering over the table, his voice cutting through the chamber one last time. This is not about me, and it's not about Mark. This is about every citizen whose voice has been silenced, every debate strangled, every truth buried under corporate filters. The tech war has only just begun, and I will fight it, not for profit, not for power, but for freedom itself. The words echoed, each syllable carrying a weight that cameras couldn't contain. For a moment, the chamber seemed suspended in silence, then erupted into a frenzy. Some senators applauded openly. Others whispered nervously, realizing the confrontation had slipped far beyond their control. Zuckerberg sat still, his expression unreadable, but the damage was done. His carefully crafted defenses lay in ruins, and his empire suddenly looked vulnerable under the glare of Musk's challenge. Reporters rushed out of the chamber, their phones lighting up with headlines already spreading like wildfire. Musk declares tech war. Zuckerberg humiliated on Capitol Hill. Senate hearing turns into gladiator arena. Across America, televisions replayed the confrontation. Talk shows dissected Musk's declaration, some praising him as a champion of free speech, others warning that his defiance threatened stability. Social media became a battlefield of its own. Tech war trending at number 1, clips of Zuckerberg's faltering replies juxtaposed against Musk's thunderous declarations. But Musk himself walked calmly out of the chamber, ignoring reporters' shouts. His final words still hung in the air like a challenge to the entire establishment. The real fight was only beginning. And as the doors closed behind him, the world understood. The battle for the digital future would not be fought in boardrooms or quiet negotiations. It would be fought in the open, raw, and unrelenting. A war not just for markets or platforms, but for the very freedom of human speech.